My good friend and hermano César Joel asked a really interesting question, which was, what would I consider to be my best two-card setup if I could only use two cards for the rest of my life? Now, there are certainly a lot of cards to choose from, but my answer may surprise you as it did the live audience when I asked them to predict the two cards that I would pick. I also respond to a question by Uncle Luke, who asked me if my recent big honeymoon redemption changed the way that I looked at earning points and miles, and if I wanted to make some changes to my own personal credit card setup. And so with that in mind, there's a lot to cover. So let's just get started and jump right in. We have my buddy, César Joel. He asked if you can only have and use two cards for the rest of your life, which ones are those and why? And so it's interesting because it's different than the one card question you typically get. Because with one card, it's a whole different set of things you have to think about. But with two, you have a little more flexibility, more options. And the way I look at it, if I have two cards, I get to have one card as a core and one card as a secondary. So that means one card I get to use just for spending or primarily for spending. And the second card I'm going to use for primarily benefits. Maybe from spending if I need to, but not really. Now, it's a question devoted or directed towards me. And a lot of you do watch my channel and know me, I hope, pretty well when it comes to the credit cards I prefer. So I thought it'd be fun before I let you know what those two cards are to see if you could guess which two cards I would put in either one of these slots. And so we're going to use a polling again for this. So again, go to menti.com and I want to know from you guys which card you think I'm going to be putting in each one. So the way we'll do it is a multiple choice. So I'm going to put three cards up on the screen, and you're going to choose the card that will not be in my two card setup. So there's only one card in there that's not going to be there. That'll make things a little bit easier to choose from. And so I'm going to go ahead and get that on the screen here. Again, go hit that like button on that question to let me know you're here, as well as on the live stream as well. And we'll get the polling started in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. The three options are the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve, Chase Ritz-Carlton, Hilton Honors Surpass. Which one of these cards would not be on my two-card setup? Is it the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve? Is the Chase Ritz-Carlton? Is the Amex Hilton Surpass? Again, remember, it's which card is not in my two-card setup, meaning that the two that you don't choose are in my setup, just to make that clear. It's a little bit confusing as a question, but I think that'd be the easiest way to do that. And I think the results are very interesting. There clearly is two cards that I promote a lot on my channel more than the other. And that's very clear from the voting that everyone thinks that it's the Amex Hilton Surpass card. And I am going to be using the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve and the Chase Ritz-Carlton card. So I don't think we need to keep doing this further. It's pretty standard and simple to see that the audience has voted. So I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to show you what that answer is. And the answer actually is this. And it's going to surprise a lot of you. Now, why did I choose the Hilton Surpass card as my secondary card? Obviously, you all were spot on saying that the reserve card is my core setup if I could choose one, right? That's very clear because there's nothing that competes to that card, right? Maybe the Smartly, but not really. US Bank is still better. The reason why I chose the Hilton Surpass card is very simple. It's because you get Hilton Gold status. That's it. Not only do you get Hilton Gold status, but you also have the opportunity to earn a $15K free night certificates if you want to go down that road too. The Chase Ritz-Carlton card is good too. That's a great thought because it gets you Merit Gold status. You get an $85K free night certificate, and you also get a very powerful party pass that gets you access to not only those lounges, but also the Chase Sapphire lounges too. So why would I forego that? Because now I don't have a good lounge card. Well, if you look at it, the reserve card does have 8 priority passes over the course of the year, which is not a lot, but still something, right? Can't get to the Sapphire lounges, not the best. It's a trade-off. But for me, when I go to Hilton hotels and I eat the breakfast at the hotels, it's usually very good because it's at a hotel. When I go to a lounge and eat the breakfast at the airport lounge, it's good, but it's not usually as good as the one I would get in the hotel, right? And so because of that, I actually would value having the food and beverage credit more And I think I would get more value from staying at Hilton's doing this than I would getting a party pass from the Ritz-Carlton card. Josh Ng also says that doesn't the Ritz also have that $300 credit, or I misunderstand? No, you do. That's true. The Ritz-Carlton card does still have that $300 annual travel credit you can apply for travel-related expenses. But this is not a question about which annual fee is better or which you get more value from. It's like, which one would I want if I could only choose 2 cards? Obviously, if I could have 3 cards, I'd want the Ritz-Carlton card. That's clear. But the question wasn't what 3 cards do you want, which 2 cards do you want? And so you have to weigh the pros and cons in your mind. What is better for you? And even though I don't talk about the Surpass card a lot, and I am much more in favor of Marriott, if I could choose, I would choose the Hilton in this particular scenario because of the Surpass card and how powerful it is. Jake Baudet asks, is the current 165K offer good for the Hilton Surpass, or recommend waiting until the elevated offer has that free night like the offer in summer of this year? So I don't know if you were here earlier, Jake, but what I mentioned is that when I go for Hilton welcome offers, and I'm right now at the Surpass level because I got the Hilton honors this year, I would always recommend waiting for that free night certificate welcome offer. I think there's a lot of value to that. I know that there's an expiration date of a year, but if you can use it within a year, I think it is a much better value than having any kind of elevated point offer. So I personally would wait unless you have some really strong urge to get that Hilton Surpass card. So there's that. So that was a surprise. I figured that a lot of you would choose the Ritz-Carlton card, so that's why I put it in there. And I just wanted to explain myself so you can understand where I'm coming from. And so maybe you feel differently, like you feel like the airport lounges will be better, like the effective annual fee better on the Ritz-Carlton card. Like there's a lot of different things. And again, there's no right answer. It's just what the right answer for you, right? And so, but this is what I would do if I had 2 cards. I would forgo Marriott, just go with Hilton, which I think is a very strong contender anyways, and I would just use the Hilton Surpass card. So we're going to move on to our next topic, which is section 2. That's on points redemption. So I was going to focus a lot on my honeymoon trip and some other related questions like that. And this is from a question from my buddy, Uncle Luke, who hopefully is still here, but maybe not. If he's not, then hopefully he'll see this on the replay. Sandy has to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did this honeymoon award redemption change the way you see not only your card earnings, but did it change your perspective on cents per point? So as you all know, I had this old video where I talked about how I don't really care about cent per point value with the asterisk next to it. Like, I think it's good to know what a standard redemption should be or what is a bad versus a good redemption. But once you get into the good territory, you don't need to really use your center point or your points for like the highest thing you can get every single time. Just get a good enough redemption to where you want to go and have a good time where you want to be, right? Because it's the experiences and the memories that are important, not necessarily the points. Now, having said that, you don't want to redeem your Amex points for cash back, right? So there's things that are bad. And that's why CPP is good to know about, but it's not something you need to really focus on to get like 10 center point, 15 center point every single time. And so the reason why he's asking that is, I did this video where I redeemed 1.5 million points for my honeymoon. And this is something that is, how do you get that many points? I did save for multiple years for this particular redemption. So I did have a bank of points to come from. And so that's why I was able to do that. And it was a lot of planning. But ultimately speaking, that breaks down to a $40,263.27 value after using 733,000 MR points, 520,000 Bonvoy points, and 244,000 IHG points. If you want to see what that breakdown was specifically for what things, I put that in my video that I just showed in the last slide. So that was what happened, right? And so what he's saying is that, well, Stan, your credit card setup is this. And it's no secret because it's been the same way for the past year. It's the Altitude Reserve, Built MasterCard, Customized Cash, and the Premium Rewards Elite credit card. Only one of these cards earned a transferable currency. So if that's the case, because you had such a great time on your honeymoon, it was a good redemption. You had a lot of experiences with hotel upgrades and first class cabins, business class cabins. Do you think you want to add more cards, more point cards to your setup? And if so, should I change my setup in 2025 to earn more points? Certainly has me thinking, but it depends on kind of what you're looking at. So there's 2 things. There's hotel redemptions and airline redemptions. The first is hotel. For me, my strategy for hotel points is very simple. Because I don't, as you saw from my credit card setup over there, because I don't earn a lot in those like welcome offers and like, standard point earnings, I typically replenish my points using a sale with the 100% point sale with Hilton IHG, which is very common. So you can buy points at 100% so that you get 0.5 cents per point. This is not free, to be fair, because you are buying the points. But what it does do is open up two things. The first is the 5th night free option and the 4th night free option on the IHG, and the 5th night free for the Hilton. And as long as you look at the hotel and you see that your redemption is greater than 0.5 cent per point, you win. You have some discount, right? If not, then obviously you don't want to make the redemption. But that's how I would do it. I'm happy to pay for hotel stays for a discounted rate if I'm not earning these points, a lot. Now, of course, I have options. I haven't had the IHG Premier card yet. I don't have the Surpass card or the Aspire card yet. And so I have a lot of opportunity throughout the next year to get welcome offers for these cards and then have those points add to my point bank to use for free redemptions, right? But this is kind of the baseline of how I'm planning on doing that. But then it gets to the point where I'm talking about airline redemptions. And so I listed all these cards here because these are actually the cards between myself and my player 2, what we have available. So we have all the ink cards, we have the Chase Freedom cards, and then we have an American Express, Morgan Stanley Platinum, and a Blue Business Plus. And so with all these 3 cards, we actually do earn some points on them because we use these cards strategically when they make sense outside of our core credit card setup. What this experience has taught me or has made me think more of is, should I or should I not cancel my Amex Platinum card? I know I just made a video about saying that I probably will, but this card is the highest earner card that I have. And there are times where I do purchase flights for that 5X category. And I do stay at FHR hotels for that 5X multiplier. And those FHR hotels aren't cheap. And so when you spend that kind of money, you get that extra 5X points back on top of that. That does end up being a little bit, you earn a lot more MR points than you'd think, right? I have the Blue Business Plus. Now this card for me is my primary card for this YouTube channel. And so I put a lot of expenses on this card just for that. And so that is a good way for me to earn MR points as well. And so that's nice. But the reason why I bring this up is that now I'm thinking, well, I don't want to add like a gold card, for example, because there's too many statement credits. I still stand by that, is that even though I could use that card and get more MR points, I would much rather have simplicity in my life than have that complexity of having to deal with all statement credits every month and make sure I'm using them and like all this jazz. Everyone's different, right? I used to be okay with that, but as I got to a point where it got very unmanageable with multiple Amex credit cards, it just wasn't really worth it for me. So there was that. And so when you look at what I had shown you before, these are my possible transfer options from each one of the issuers that I had. And a lot of them are not listed because to me, they're not really that important in my situation, but these are the ones I would imagine I would eventually transfer to in the future. And so you can see there's a lot of overlap. And so because of that, the existing cards I have already, for me, I think are fine. I don't think I need to add any more points earning cards necessarily now, unless I want to do for welcome offer purposes or getting more points from that perspective. But what's nice is that, there's a lot of these transfer partners I could use that I can pool together from different point systems. So I can have, even though they're different, Amex or Chase, you can like use the same transfer partner and still add those together to get that redemption. So the nice thing though, is there are opportunities to think about for next year, right? And so we all know about the Citibank exclusivity deal with American Airlines, which is super exciting. We also know about the Alaska card, how they're merging with Hawaiian, and you have that MR point to Hawaii to Alaska thing going on. You also have that 2025 premium credit card coming out next year too. And so those are some additional opportunities to think about as I move forward to say, do I need to get additional points? American Airlines is a great partner. Alaska is a great partner too, because the One World Alliance is very powerful for those two particular airline miles. So do I want to delve into those cards too in the future? And that's certainly a possibility. So I'll have to see what my travel plans look like to see like what I'm looking for, but they're on the table. I have never had an Alaska card, never had an American Airlines card. So all those welcome offers are still on the table for me. And so we'll see what happens in 2025, but we'll see. But that's really exciting to see that there are a lot of things to look forward to in 2025. Again, this card is still not for me, like I mentioned before. I really value simplicity, and so that's how I would talk about with this particular card. Is it's great for some people, like the last with Peter and his question. I think it would be a great option to consider. But he already also said that he didn't want to do anything with those statement credits. So it depends again on the person if you want to deal with that or not. Stephen Wu says a lot of people are asking about their asking the Amex card. I don't know if he's been asking or axing, but yeah, a lot of people are seeing how much work it is to keep their Amex cards and may not be worth it anymore. So Stephen will also ask which bank is issuing. It's going to be a Bank of America that issues the Alaska Premium credit cards. So when it comes to cents per point, I still believe in the same thing I talked about before, where I use cent per point as a baseline, but just a baseline. And after you get to a good redemption, that's fine. And then for me, I do plan on flying internationally maybe once a year. So it's going to be a cent per point versus convenience argument. Like for my honeymoon, I planned a year in advance. I spent more points than I should have, but because of that, I had a confirmed seat on a date that I wanted. And so for me, that was worth it. In the future, it's going to be questionable if that's worth it or not, because that was a lot of points that I used. So if I want to continue to do this on a regular basis, I have to be a little bit more economical with the points. And to do that, I have to make better redemptions and learn the game a little bit more. And so that's going to be a learning process as we move forward, but we'll see kind of what happens. Okay, so he said scale from 0 to 10 or 1 to 10. I said 5. It's like it changed me a little bit, but not to the whole point where I'm going out of cash back into mostly points. I still think the hybrid setup is the way I want to go, where I'm earning points on the side just a little bit, but really primarily using my cashback cards to earn those higher, like 4.5% on the US bar. And hopefully soon that 4% on that US Bank Smartly card.